Nelson Mandela. The name itself evokes a sense of awe. He was a giant of a man, a symbol of peace and justice who changed the world. He fought for equality, he fought for freedom, he fought for the rights of all people. Mandela's life story is an inspiration to us all. He showed us that even in the face of adversity, we can overcome, we can forgive, we can build a better future. This essay will explore the life and legacy of Nelson Mandela. We will journey from his humble beginnings to his rise as a global icon. We will look at his fight against apartheid in South Africa. We will examine his years of imprisonment, and we will celebrate his triumph as the first democratically elected president of a free South Africa. Mandela's story is a testament to the power of the human spirit. It is a story about hope. It is a story about courage. It is a story about the enduring belief in the possibility of a better world. Nelson Mandela was born Rolihlahla Mandela on July 18, 1918. His birthplace was a small village called Mvezo in the eastern Cape of South Africa. Mandela's upbringing was modest, but his family instilled in him a strong sense of justice. His father, a chief's counselor, lost his position for challenging a magistrate's authority. This event left a lasting impression on young Nelson. Mandela excelled in school. He attended a local mission school. Later, he went to a prestigious boarding school called Healdtown. It was at Healdtown that Mandela began to develop his political consciousness. He witnessed firsthand the inequalities faced by black South Africans under the apartheid regime. Mandela's pursuit of education continued at the University of Fort Hare. This was the only residential center of higher learning for black Africans in South Africa at the time. He studied law, hoping to use his knowledge to fight for social justice. However, Mandela's activism led to his expulsion from Fort Hare. This experience only strengthened his resolve to fight against oppression. In the 1940s, Nelson Mandela joined the African National Congress, or ANC. This was a political party at the forefront of the struggle against apartheid. Apartheid was a system of racial segregation and discrimination that was brutally enforced in South Africa. Mandela quickly rose through the ranks of the ANC. He became a key figure in the organization's youth league. Mandela's activism took many forms. He organized protests, he led strikes, he helped to establish the Umkhonto we Sizwe. This was the ANC's armed wing. Mandela believed that non-violent resistance was no longer enough. He argued that the apartheid regime would only respond to force. In 1952, Mandela and several other ANC leaders were arrested. They were charged with violating the Suppression of Communism Act. This was one of many attempts by the government to silence dissent. The trial lasted for several years. It brought Mandela into the national spotlight. He became a symbol of resistance against apartheid. Section 4. The Rivonia Trial and Mandela's Imprisonment, A Time for Courage. The South African government was determined to crush the anti-apartheid movement. In 1964, Nelson Mandela and several other ANC leaders were arrested again. This time, the charges were much more serious: sabotage and other acts of violence. The trial that followed became known as the Rivonia Trial. It was a pivotal moment in the fight against apartheid. The Rivonia Trial captured the world's attention. People around the globe watched in horror as Mandela and his co-defendants were subjected to a show trial. The outcome was a foregone conclusion. Mandela was sentenced to life imprisonment. He was sent to the notorious Robben Island prison. Robben Island was a place of immense suffering, but Mandela refused to be broken. He endured years of hard labor. He was subjected to solitary confinement, yet he emerged from prison even more determined to fight for justice. Section 5. A global icon emerges. Mandela's imprisonment and international support. Nelson Mandela's imprisonment transformed him into a global icon. People around the world rallied to his cause. They demanded his release. They called for an end to apartheid in South Africa. Musicians dedicated songs to him. Politicians spoke out against his imprisonment. Mandela's name became synonymous with the fight against racial injustice. Inside South Africa, the anti-apartheid movement gained momentum. The government faced mounting pressure from within and outside the country. The international community imposed sanctions on South Africa. Businesses withdrew their investments. The country became increasingly isolated. Throughout his years in prison, Mandela remained a powerful symbol of hope. He became a father figure to millions who yearned for a free and just South Africa. His spirit never wavered. His commitment to justice never faltered. Even behind bars, he remained a leader in the fight against apartheid. Section 6. Mandela's Release and Presidency, A New Dawn for South Africa. On February 11, 1990, the world watched in amazement. Nelson Mandela walked free from Victor Verster prison. After 27 years behind bars, the man who had become a symbol of hope was finally free. His release marked a turning point in the history of South Africa. It signaled the beginning of the end of apartheid. Mandela immediately called for reconciliation. He urged his followers to lay down their arms. He reached out to the white minority government. He knew that a peaceful transition to democracy was the only way to avoid a bloodbath. Mandela's message of forgiveness and unity resonated deeply with people across South Africa. In 1994, South Africa held its first democratic elections. Nelson Mandela was elected as the country's first black president. It was a moment of extraordinary pride and joy for millions of South Africans. The man who had been imprisoned for his beliefs was now the leader of a free and democratic nation. Section 7. Mandela's Enduring Legacy, a Beacon of Hope for the World. Nelson Mandela left an indelible mark on the world. He showed us the power of forgiveness. He demonstrated the importance of reconciliation. He dedicated his life to fighting for justice and equality. Mandela's legacy continues to inspire us today. Mandela's achievements extended far beyond South Africa's borders. He became a global advocate for peace. He spoke out against poverty. He campaigned for HIV/AIDS awareness. His message of hope and unity resonated with people around the world. Nelson Mandela passed away on December 5, 2013, at the age of 95. But his spirit lives on. His life and legacy continue to inspire us to fight for a better world, a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect, a world where everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential. Mandela's message is a timeless one. It is a message of hope, courage, and the enduring belief in the power of the human spirit.